And since audio overviews came out, she's been integrating them into the way she learns new subjects. And she went from a D or a C grade student to like an A or a B grade student.
Really?
Yeah.
네, 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 안될과학 항성입니다. 오늘 여러분들께 정말 흥미로운 분을 인터뷰를 하고자 모셨습니다. 구글에서 여러분들 사용하고 계실지도 모르겠는데 노트북 LM이라고 바로 화제가 되고 있는 이 노트북 LM을 기획하고 세상에 내놓으신 분을 제가 모셨는데 이 노트북 LM이 어떻게 탄생을 했는지, 노트북 LM과 같은 이 AI 툴이 어떻게 우리 세상을 바꿔갈 수 있을지 이야기를 한번 들어보도록 하겠습니다. Can you introduce yourself first?
I'm Simon. I'm a PM director at Google. I work in Google Labs, which is a small team that tries to discover the future of many different areas. And we try to do that through building products. So you may have heard of many of our products. NotebookLM, which we're going to talk about today, is one of them. But we have many more across a range of different disciplines.
So I heard that you're the person who tried to build from the building the ideas and try to develop the notebook LMs, right? So what makes you feel join the notebook LM project? And then what's the moment that this is going to be big AI tools?
Well, I've always been interested in knowledge as a whole. I spent many years working in Google Search. And then many years working on Discover, which is our ML-powered or AI-powered interest feed. And what's so interesting about Notebook is many of the things that we actually come into contact with in day-to-day life that we need help with are actually real information. It's not made-up information.
Right.
It's real information. It's documents. It's tax forms, it's conversations, it's complex, complex new scientific papers, for example, that are cutting edge.
Right.
Those things are not in the models. NotebookLM places a very clear bet on helping you understand that type of information. And that just felt really interesting to me because not only is it helpful personally, but it's also very practical for everybody as well.
Right. So when I use the notebook LM, the thing that I was very impressive is audio overview.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
How do you come up with that? What makes we have to try to develop the audio overview with
Yeah. Well, we were trying to figure out what the future of entertainment looks like, actually. Just what does the future of entertainment look like? And we experimented with a couple of different types of content. Number one, we experimented with text-based content, but very few people read anymore when they want to be entertained. At the time, video was still a ways out, actually, but audio felt like a really interesting sweet spot. We had some amazing researchers within Google that were making groundbreaking progress in human-sounding conversational dialogue. And also we realized that the compute envelope was actually reasonable. And so we put these two things together and we found that we could create natural-sounding conversations on a range of different topics. And what really unlocked it actually was the release of Gemini 1.5 Pro. So the very first version of Audio Overview, I created it, this would be about a year and a half ago. Yeah, just before 1.5 Pro was released to the general public, because we were trying to figure out what does the long context model unlock? And for me, I felt like it would unlock the ability for a really interesting conversation about rich information that was just impossible with the previous models that had a much smaller context window. So the very first one we made actually was, it used the UK Houses of Parliament daily record. It's called the Hansard. And every day the Houses of Parliament, they put out a record of everything that's talked about in government. And of course, that's so much information that no reasonable person would ever really read this.
Right.
And it felt like the perfect thing for us to try. And so we put this daily record in and we generated a conversation that it unlocked the ability to understand something that's kind of critical for everybody to be aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's more like a podcast, like two hosts are coming out from the audio overview and they have conversation between those two person each other, right?
Yeah, initially it was actually a single speaker, but we found that it was a bit boring, and we made the leap to try dual speakers. Actually, we have other experiments with 3 speakers or 4 speakers.
Wow.
Yeah, but 2 speakers was a really nice sweet spot where you could create enough variety, but also each one of the hosts has got a very specific persona. And so the host that's talking, they are the curious, intelligent everyman. So they're not necessarily an expert in the information, and they're curious to learn about the information. And the other host or the other guest is the expert, and they have all of the knowledge. And so it's that conversational interplay that really makes the content come alive.
Right. So people keep saying that NotebookLM could completely change of how you work or how you document and research and everything. So in your point of view, what do you think our workflows could change actually look like once NotebookLM become like a mainstream for AI?
If you look at Notebook today, it takes information in,
Yeah.
but you have to upload it. And then you talk with it, and then you have to click a button and you can generate different types of information. I feel that what NotebookLM has taught us is that process, taking in complex information and transforming it into something that is easy to understand and valuable is very valuable. Yeah, it's a very valuable thing. But I think where there is still room to improve is connecting NotebookLM to where we actually do our work on a day-to-day basis. For example, I think we can make it much easier for you to work with everything in your Google Drive, as an example, right? Today it's kind of a pain. Could we make that easier in the future? I think we can make it a lot easier, actually. Yeah, and the same for the outputs as well. Instead of the outputs only being inside Notebook, maybe the outputs can also be in your drive as well.
So how do you make sure people trust AI tools and don't feel like they are just making stuff up?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical, by the way. One of the things that NotebookLM does really well is it has citations. So tapping on the citations, you can see where the information came from, you can see where the insight came from, and you can build trust in the insights from the model itself.
Any interesting stories from early users? Probably like some internal puzzles or beta users or something like that.
After we launched audio overviews, one of our teammates found me in the hallway, and she said, "Hey, I just want to stop you for a second. I just want to say thank you because she has a daughter who struggles at school a little bit. Finds it hard to process lots of information." And since audio overviews came out, she's been integrating them into the way she learns new subjects. And she went from a D or a C grade student to like an A or a B grade student.
Really?
Yeah. And this Googler was blown away. So happy that a tool like Notebook had kind of enabled her daughter to make such rapid progress. And we see this kind of everywhere. So just the other day, a user on Twitter or on X told me that they decided finally to apply for a master's course because they had the confidence that they could actually understand the material.
Oh, I see.
Because they have NotebookLM to explain it to them, which is like amazing. This person had been putting off going to college. They decided it's not for them because they couldn't access the actual the understanding inside the information. But with Notebook, they were able to actually understand information, and that gave them the confidence to make this kind of life-changing decision. There's those sort of moments where you're like, wow, okay, this is changing people's lives. What a lot of people don't know is you can upload content and sources that are in any language into Notebook. Really? And as long as you have Notebook set to your language, then it will always generate information in your language. And so what we've seen is we've seen users making kind of customized English learning lessons. And so one of our users uploaded a whole bunch of kind of English financial documentation because they love finance, this is their job. And they asked Notebook, they customized the audio overview, and they asked Notebook to make them an English lesson using phrases from these industry-specific papers. And so this was like deep finance. There would never be an English lesson like this. Like never, never.
Even like not in everyday life, they don't use that.
No one would ever use these words. No one would ever use these words. But for this user, for them professionally, it was actually really important that they were interested in learning these sort of words. And so, they use the ability for Notebook to essentially understand any language to create a custom language lesson using phrases from their domain of expertise, which I just thought that was amazing, because that language lesson would literally never exist without them doing this.
Can you introduce a little bit about the Google Labs and what they are working at?
So Google Labs is a pretty small team, and it's around 200, a bit over 300 people. Quite small in terms of Google size. We as a group exist to really sort of discover and build future software. So this is not this isn't a team that improves our existing very large products that we have out there, but it's a team that creates brand new products that leverages the new technologies that we have, especially in a world of AI. And so we focus on specific domains, and we try to look about 2 years into the future. Imagine, what does the future look like? And then we try to build what we imagine is working to try and pull the future in a bit closer. Most of our teams inside Google Labs, you will never hear about because we basically stopped the project. So we're always trying new things with really small teams. Like the smallest team is like a team of 3, team of 2. You can spend a couple months investigating an idea, and if it doesn't work, and there's many reasons why it might not work, by the way, then they try something else. But sometimes, if you're doing really careful investigation, you're doing careful exploration of the idea space, you find something. And the timing is just right. And then you kind of grow the team and you evolve it and so forth. And so NotebookLM was one of those. Actually, NotebookLM for over a year was a very small team. Way back at the start, it was around 6 people.
When you're making generative AI product, sometimes you have to make a decision like this one, we have to do this one, or you have to take out this functions or something like that. Because people will like, this one is very important functions or very important to this product. So how do you make those decisions? Because market changes a lot faster and people, their need changes so fast. How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, so one of the most important and hardest things, I think, with building in Gen AI is both getting the timing right. So is it even possible to do the thing? But also getting the reliability. So is it possible to get one every time? So if you've listened to audio overviews, right? Pretty much every one of them is pretty good, right? You very rarely get one that is, sometimes you get them and they're a little bit boring, but you almost never get one that sounds broken. And so getting the reliability right at the same time as timing, where it's genuinely new to people in the market, is really, really challenging. Yeah. So timing, being first, but also reliably being able to do something every time, it's a real art.
All right. It feels like everyone, from everyday users to the experts, is suddenly learning into AI things, because everyone uses AI and then they use the AI tools a lot. So how do you see that changing how people get things done and come up with these ideas?
One of the ways that I like to talk about the shift that's happening is that we're moving from a world where if we want to do something, if we want to build something, if we want to create something, or if we have to figure something out, we're no longer by ourselves. Actually, we have a creative partner, or we have a thought partner, or we have a collaborator that can actually help us, not just kind of find the answer, but help us explore options as well. Right, and present the possibilities to us, and also that can help fit whatever it is to us, personalize the information as well. I think that is a huge change in many parts of the knowledge economy, where for most people, if you're working with information, you're kind of by yourself. Right? It's on you, right? But AI can be a really amazing collaborator and partner in working with information, and I think that's why in today's world, where many of our roles and our jobs or the companies we make, are in many ways dealing with information, we're finding so much product market fit because so many of us struggle with this on a daily basis.
Right. So as your AI developer, what's the smartest way to get along with the AI?
I think the easiest way to get started with AI these days is really to start just having a natural conversation, right? So ask it some advice, for example. It's a really easy way to just get started. You know, we all have issues that we run into in our day-to-day, and just asking one of the large language models to give you advice is actually a really useful way to get started, and it will give you an idea of the kind of the capabilities that these systems have inside them. And I think that kind of feeds into where I think I see this going in the medium term as well. You know, these systems they have to be useful for us. I think, you know, in that respect, the systems are going to be much closer to collaborators that are actually trying to help us. And so really just asking it for advice is an easy way to get started with these things and an easy way to get immediate value out of them as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. 구글 딥마인드에서 AI 생명과학 혁신을 이끌고 계시는 Manish Gupta 교수님을 모셨습니다. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Can you introduce yourself first?
Thanks for having me on your show. I'm Manish Gupta. I lead Google DeepMind research teams in India and Japan. Our mission at Google DeepMind is to work on building AI responsibly to benefit humanity. And given that a very large part of humanity lives in this region, our teams contribute a lot to that mission.
Google DeepMind is kind of very famous with the first time in AlphaGo, and after that you developed the AlphaFold, and even 2024 Nobel Prize for chemistry. So that means AlphaFold is very important, has become changed the gold standard of the AI solving problems and scientific research as well. So was there a moment when you thought, holy crap, this is actually working, or this is actually game changer?
Yes. So early in my career, I worked with a number of researchers who were trying to understand the mechanism of protein folding through ab initio molecular dynamics, right? Through scientific simulations. It was extremely computationally expensive. Do all of those simulations through which you would try to understand the mechanisms of protein folding and then predict the protein structure. There used to be this biannual contest, CASP. It used to take about 3 to 5 years of research before you uncovered the structure of a single protein. Right? And for newly discovered protein structures, they used to be presented as challenges to these software models. And I remember seeing some amazing results in, I believe it was 2017, and then 2019, the predictions were so good that effectively the community considered the problem as effectively solved. So it was a grand challenge.
So with all of your work, AI for the sciences, how do you think the scientific research itself is going to change?
Yeah, so one of the things I think it is important to recognize is it's not just like protein science or life science that we are seeing this change pretty much across the board. If you look at weather forecasting, today you have AI-based models that are producing more accurate medium range weather forecasts and even cyclone prediction than traditional physics-based models. There are researchers working to make fusion a reality so that you can reach that break-even point where you, in controlled setting, you get more energy out of the fusion reaction than what you put in, right, to get the fusion reaction going. And a lot of work happening on trying to discover new material. So this is a very broad kind of a phenomena where we are seeing the impact of AI in helping accelerate scientific discovery in many, many fields. And there are some amazing tools that are getting developed, like co-scientists, through which you can help these scientists generate various very interesting hypotheses related to the problems that they are working on. And of course, these universal digital assistants, these are getting so powerful. They have the entire world's literature, in some sense, right, already captured, and they can assist us with questions and giving us the benefit of accessing all of that world's literature.
Great. And everyone's excited about the Gemini, which is try to develop the new medicines like
Right.
Gemini and similar models in healthcares. But honestly, what are the biggest barriers keeping them from being part of the doctor's everyday tools?
Medicine is very appropriately so a heavily regulated industry. So you have to make sure that these models are not causing harm. So beyond just developing models, it takes a lot of effort, right, to go through the certification process,
Right.
where you have to conduct rigorous randomized control trials, right, and show the benefits of, let's say, deploying certain technologies, right? And also we are really trying to develop these tools in a manner that they become assistive tools rather than we're not trying to replace human doctors, we're trying to provide assistance. I do feel that there are so many parts of the world where you have very little access to expert doctors.
Right.
In India, there are all these primary health centers. Many of them are not even staffed with a medically trained doctor.
Right.
So if you can empower some of the health workers at such centers to make better, even triage decisions, that itself is a very significant boost to their effectiveness.
Yeah. Balancing groundbreaking research with building usable product has to be a challenge. How do you manage with the tension between those two?
Yeah, so we have research teams are often driven with that goal of not making things just slightly better, but 10x better, right? So there is this whole notion of moonshot thinking that in some sense very much pervades how research in Google Deepmind, at Google Research, how we are encouraged to look at problems and really come up with breakthroughs rather than just small incremental improvements. Of course, we work very closely with our product teams and try to make sure that all of these ideas, right, that our researchers are coming up with are actually making a difference. And I feel we are at Google very privileged that there are so many of our products that are used by billions of people and that are making their lives better. It's giving them access to better information. It is helping them, go from one point to another more effectively, and so on. So I think it's an amazing privilege, right, to be able to, through our research ideas, contribute to improving products that will help the lives of billions of people on the planet.
All right. Google Deepmind recently released the AlphaFold 3. What was the difference between those 2 and 3? What was the most improvement?
So
the version of it.
What we are doing is extending the ability of these models to understand these interactions between so many different kinds of molecules. So of course the earlier focus was on protein drug, for instance, ligand interactions. Over a period of time, this has been extended to a lot of different kinds of molecules. So there are so many different chemical processes, so many different biological processes that now we can begin to understand better with some of these more modern tools.
Right. So like us or like a scientist know, they understand how the AlphaFold changed all the big games and research field, but public doesn't have the chance to really getting impressed in daily life. How can you explain that how AlphaFold changed in the scientific research?
Yeah, so today there are over 2 million researchers across the world, and I believe more than 65,000 researchers right here in Korea who are using AlphaFold. So as you know, drug discovery is a very long drawn out process, right? It takes, in the past it used to take close to 2 decades to identifying molecules to actually a drug that works. So yeah, it is a time-consuming process, but there are many aspects in that process which are getting dramatically accelerated. So I think over a period of time, you're going to see a lot of very visible examples, not only from areas like drug discovery. We see interesting applications like some researchers designing enzymes to make plastics degradable using AlphaFold, or scientists using that to design seeds that would make the crop resistant to certain pests. I think across many different biological and life science related areas, you're going to see these dramatic improvements and new discoveries and so on getting accelerated. And as you begin to see the impact, those ideas, right, translated into real inventions, new products, and so on, right? That would lead to, again, I think the broader public appreciating all of these.
Can you share any real-world example when AI, like an AlphaFold, has already saved money or saved the time in drug discovery or cancer treatment or something like that?
Yeah, so I'll perhaps give one example, and this is just one of many. So there is some work being done at University of Colorado where they have tried to understand the mechanisms behind kind of bacteria developing resistance to antibiotics, recognize certain enzymes that contribute to that resistance being developed, and AlphaFold is helping these scientists discover certain properties about enzymes which are hopefully leading to clues on how to block those enzymes and how to make existing antibiotics continue to be effective, because that is a very big challenge, right, that the humanity is dealing with. If a lot of these very potent antibiotics, bacteria develop immunity to those, that becomes a bigger challenge, which requires, again, more of the new antibiotics to be discovered. But this is a way to extend the effectiveness of existing antibiotics that already work.
Okay, so growing AI research globally must come with plenty of challenges in research part or in everywhere. So what's been the most frustrating part for you personally in that way?
Overall, I would say I find it quite enjoying. I think the ability, because when you are a researcher, the encouragement that's given to come up with breakthroughs, not just like incremental improvements. So to me, that is often one of the biggest challenges. Right. Because when there are young researchers who join my team, one of the pieces of advice that I always give to all of the researchers who join my team is don't pick problems that you know you can solve.
Oh, okay.
Because that's a very common tendency for researchers. Okay, let me pick a problem that would give me my next paper or my next whatever feature where I've improved a product. Instead, pick problems that, if solved, would make a transformative difference to the world. So a lot of times, I encourage our researchers to ask the so what question. So what if you solve the problem? You come up with a response. You ask another so what to that response. And if after a series of those so what question responses, you end up with something that looks like it would change the world in a very significant manner, yes, those are problems worth tackling. If it makes a modest difference, perhaps that's not something, right, we should be investing our time in. So one of the, I guess, key challenges that at least I deal with as a leader is to try and encourage more of our researchers to start thinking in that mode and not be afraid of failures, be willing to take on these big challenges.
So if a young scientist you just mentioned or engineer come up to you and said they wanted to get into the AI research, what would you tell them focus on the first?
Yeah, so I would say strengthen your your foundations first, right? So all of the math foundations that provide the underpinning, right, for the era of learning models, the usual probability, statistics, calculus, and linear algebra. So A, kind of strengthen your fundamental understanding, and B, be willing to keep learning, because our field is just evolving at a very, very fast pace. So in some sense, you have to think beyond the horizon of, again, what people are doing to kind of tackle problems that would be relevant many years from now, and yet kind of stay abreast, right, of all of the developments that are going on in the field.
Over the next decades, what breakthrough in life science powered by the AI or AlphaFold are you most excited to see?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm looking forward to is a lot of these very serious diseases like cancer, which take so many lives. I'm really looking forward to us ultimately finding cures to many of these very, very tough diseases, and ultimately also understanding medicine at a much deeper level. Long ago, one of the doctors was telling me about this quote from a famous doctor who said, look, half of what we know in the field of medicine is wrong.
Right,
we just don't know which half. So there's also so much of discovery to be made, right, in the world of medical sciences as we develop a deeper understanding of how the human body operates. I'm hoping we get to a much deeper understanding and ultimately very holistic approaches to staying healthy as well as dealing with those diseases like cancer, right? When we are affected by those diseases.
Yeah. So last question is, what's the big ultimate goal for AlphaFold and Google Deepmind?
Yeah, so we have been on this pursuit of artificial general intelligence capability. We see this again ultimately a tremendous way to really augment human capability so that together, human and AI, we are able to tackle the kind of problems, right, that today look intractable, as well as a lot of those problems that where it wasn't previously considered economically viable to solve those problems and kind of make the world a better place.
Yeah, hopefully we can solve all of those tough problems, but you see, probably, I think that after we solve all those tough problems, more tougher problems will come into the real life. But hopefully another AI or Google Deepmind can solve that problem as well. 네, 오늘 인터뷰 여기서 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.